What's that? Descended from gods? Oh, lords, no. Come, have a seat. While the Taldan people descend from ancient Aslanti, it said, I'm sure many are not as directly descended as the claims may seem. The ancient ancestors wandered slowly across the inner sea regions during following Earthfall, pushed progressively further east by both orcs and the aggressive Kelid tribes. Yes. Over time, they incorporated blood language from the Kelids, the Grundis, and the Kelishites. The Taldors, ancients, grew into distinct peoples. Most modern Taldans can trace their history back at least 1, possibly 2 centuries, but they all share key features with their culture, including a confidence, a stubbornness, a strong sense of camaraderie and love of history and art. These intense traditionalisms mean that the Taldan culture is still steeped in sexism, in racism, in other things that nations have cast aside or are gradually shedding to improve. Taldor is a nation of long histories and deep divisions. Following Earthfall and the Ages of Darkness, it was one of the first settlements on Ashtaban to rebuild itself, allying desperate city-states into an empire. This mythic task, achieved by the legendary first emperor Taldaeus himself, gave birth not only to a nation, but to its nationalist fervors.
Hello and welcome to Season 1 of Dice Before Dishonor. Finally, months. How long has it been, guys? How long has it been since we had 3 months before when Season 0 ended? And why? Why did we do that? Well, I'd like to remind the audience that we were kind of going out on a limb here. Before we just jumped into War for the Crown, yes, it was released late last year, came out February, March, and we started digging into it. We decided to do an all-Cavalier party. Not just a bit of a lark. We were looking for the newest, latest thing. We were either going to do War for the Crown or maybe something like the Aslanti or, something out there. And we were looking for an angle. And we had several ideas for said angle. And then one fine day, someone on the internet, which name nameless, but I'm a big fan of, mentioned that an all-Cavalier party, as opposed to an all-Vigilante party, would be very interesting to see. A whole bunch of people doing mounted combat, even if they're in a dungeon, even if they are, burning feats on this kind of thing and having a low skill set. It is a handicap way to, hamstring a party unless they're in total full-on outdoor combat. So instead of just jumping right into Crownfall, we found Pathfinder Society adventures, several that all directly link through the Sovereign Court, which is the Pathfinder Society faction that is up and running in Taldor for Taldor, through Lady Gurley Marilla. And we ran one of them, Season 8, called Honor's Echo. And if we used anybody that was not cavalierish or towing the line or on a horse, we split the show into a spin-off called Echoes of Honor. And this did several things. First of all, it began touching on and explaining why we allowed a samurai to run with several cavaliers. And there'll be a lot more. We've barely really touched and explained what's going on with that. But trust me, Grand Prince Davian III is interested in foreign powers. He elevated a Vinmark, an Ulfin Viking guy from afar, made him his personal guard. And to have the Vinmark people, thanks to some cutscenes, adopt a young, noble Taijan boy who grew up in the nobility class that was elevated as a Vinmark is not such a far stretch. But you'll have to listen to Echoes of Honor to know more about that. Right now, Leon, our fly samurai, is right here with us, with his group. Or is he? Seems to me we left off with a little bit of a twist, with 3 of our cavaliers being knighted. One didn't have to, he was already a lord. But the last one, the samurai said no. Said that his lord was the princess's father, Grand Prince Davian III himself, and only he could bestow any type of reward or honor upon him. Dropped the mic and walked out. The man was immediately approached by a noble lady of court, her name, Lady Lothede, from the Lothede family. Lady Martella Lothede, of a bit of a scandal there, half Kadiran, half her father's nobility in the Lothid family, all wizards, showing little aptitude for magic, carved her own way in society, and is now, for her own reasons, looking to be the benefactor for certain people that are rising stars, Taldan patriots. The list goes on. You look in the PC guide for Taldor, for the War for the Crown. There's a lot of really cool politics and intrigues that are going to come to light, and we're going to try to dig into as much of it as we can, as quickly as we can. The last thing we said before I said, guys, we're going to go headlong into Crownfall, was Lady Lothid was handing a Kitsune disguised as Leon the Samurai a note, and if he could puzzle it out, if he was interested, to meet at a certain location. Now, we skipped over that morning where Romeo was pacing back and forth in a courtyard where everyone showed up, and Leon showed up last, late, with no horse, no armor, and in full garb. Wasn't exactly chummy with his fellow compatriots, and left them in the company of Fafal, who was cuddling up to Lord Samish, as opposed to celebrating along with them. Now, in Season 8 of the Pathfinder Society, we would have to assume that this occurred, since we're in Season 10, that this occurred at least about a year ago. So anywhere from, let's say, 3 months to a year ago, the events of Season 0 have happened. Now, we're about to launch Season 1, Crownfall, and go full bore. And the votes are in. People do want to see how our Cavaliers are going to go about this. And people are going to be curious and want to see if a samurai can toe the line. But we experimented with several things in Season 0. We did not use stamina points, and now we wish to. That feat, which will operate a stamina pool for the characters, is available. They may not take it, but it's out there. A sort of game mechanic reward for my Cavaliers and our One Fly Samurai was to bestow hero points. That game mechanic is now up and running. So to start off, let's get into the hero point system, gentlemen. This is similar, but not to be confused with the hero points of 2nd edition Pathfinder. Cut and dry, you get 1 a level, and then you can be rewarded up to 3, you can carry 3 at a time, for really cool things above bringing the DM pop and chips. I'm talking about delving deeply, role-playing into one's faith, and sort of taking away from the curtain and not farming XP and going off with the party and hanging back to go against the grain. We have Lord Samish, whose father begged a maid to save a young injured Samish's life, and she prayed to Sarenrae, and it's affected his life from that point on. Only recently has the worship of Sarenrae, which is a very sore spot due to the Elven Tongue Wars and all this stuff that happened with Kadiria for like 500 years, that religion was outlawed. They had blamed the clerics as sort of an in for the foreign powers. It has come back. There are no temples, but there are shrines. It is publicly allowed in the streets. But that doesn't mean that the older Taldarians are just going to roll over and embrace this faith. So it's still quite a bit of controversy. And to play into that, Lord Samish stayed behind in the last season to learn what he could from a woman who possibly is connected to his older brother and is definitely connected to the faith. And for that, Frank, you get a hero point. Frank, you have 2 hero points to start the game. Next, moving down the list, I remember a certain samurai who wasn't overly thrilled that he got wounded and almost unconscious during a fight in the deep woods of Taldor. And I'll show you exactly right now where I'm talking about. Do you remember when you guys were in the Verdant Forest? And in said forest, you guys fought the druids that took everything personally, thought Romeo's paying off just to get an audience with the Blackwood Tree was very insulting. You guys happily beat the tar out of those people and left. It was Leon who stayed, risking life and limb. And Leon that got bagged and tagged by a, shall we say, guerrilla group out of Corsamir that take logging rights in the Verdant Forest a little bit too seriously and were willing to do some nasty things, kidnap noblemen's children and do all kinds of things as terrorists to prove their point. Leon got captured by them, and he got saved by, well, your backup characters. What a great way to cameo some of the guys that you will be playing if your Cavaliers die. However, we promised a Cavalier party and to uphold said Cavalier party. So I will tell you now, cling to those hit points, gentlemen, because if you die before we get to a certain point in the adventure, I have several players with Cavaliers at the ready to take your place so that the audience may experience a Cavalier party up to an acceptable point before you guys, as our standard cast, are allowed to thank them, write them out, and bring in your secondary characters. Otherwise, I'm afraid we will burn through the Cavalier concept quite quickly. If one dies, we're still down a hero. You're down to 3 fighters, as it were, and it'll start a domino effect. But we'll get into that in a minute. Getting back to the Verdant Forest, waiting to hear from Whisple. Unfortunately, Leon got intercepted by these terrorists and bagged and tagged, saved by several backup characters of our cast. Those acts of honor, I believe, earn Jay Tamlin a second hero point. So, Mr. Samurai, Akihiko, as he's phonetically put on the screen so I don't mess up his name, thank you, has 2 as well. You're very welcome, sir. That much Japanese I know. You guys roleplayed great. The fans love your characters, and I can't constantly pat you on the back for every little cool thing you do or say in character. However, when you put your character at a disadvantage, separating from the party, they're going to go off and adventure, get XP without you, that kind of thing, if it falls within the guidelines of the hero point, which I will quickly read. There are certain things you can endeavor to do, like getting way into your character story. Well, we have a whole thing for Leon. I'm not giving him a character story. I'm going to give him and Aiden Willems, who has a Cavalier in the ready, but works better at higher level, their own show, the spinoff Echoes of Honor. Watch for it. So that's 1 hero point. All you guys are going to get a show instead. Completing plot arcs, delving into faith, group service, where you guys, instead of like crafting items, will like stay and help fix the wagon wheel and doing stuff that would really slow your XP advancement. Heroic acts, obviously. These type of things will earn you guys hero points. Like, oh, I don't know, maybe we'll call them, no, I can't call them that, but I'll give them out the way some others do, is like bottle caps. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 1, season 1 of War for the Crown, Pathfinder Adventure Path, book 1, Crownfall. Gentlemen, it has been several months, and the entire city knows that the princess has affiliated herself with you by knighting you directly. This does not put you in favor with some of the fuddy-duddies of old that favor Stavian. The primogeniture law that Princess Eutropia herself is pushing for the Senate to overturn in the Senate so that a female heir can one day ascend the throne has become the talk of everyone in the city of Opera here in Taldor. But this week, it doesn't matter. This week is the week celebration of exaltation, where a common person, man, woman, has proven something to the country. They excel at something. Could be basket weaving, could be military service, could be trading, something that really has drawn the eyes of the Senate, the lords, the ladies, and the common man themselves are all consulted on this for a full year. They point their finger to one, well, several, but somebody has to win, person. And that person is going to be raised from a meager living to nobility. Now, as an example of this, not too long ago, the Vinmart family, a group of Ulfin warriors, think of Vikings from the Lenorm King lands, was raised not only to nobility, the Grand Prince Stavian III himself made them his personal guard. And even though they've stuck to their ways of barbaric honor and Viking type ways, these guys are considered nobles. The entire family is considered nobility, and the country has to accept it. So who's it going to be? Is it going to be something that everybody likes? Somebody that becomes a rising star and everyone will fall in love with? Or is it going to cause a whole bunch of more controversy? The whole thing with Princess against her father and what it really means, does she just want to secure the country so that one day she could succeed him? Or is she plotting to succeed him a little bit more nefariously and quicker than nature intended? It's become a hot topic, but it's become an old topic, and it's bogging down the Senate. And all sorts of political factions, nefarious and legit, have been plotting behind the scenes. You can learn a little bit more about that in our Echoes of Honor pod when we run the Library of the Lion and possibly Birthright Betrayal, perhaps even the Jarl's Blood Witch Saga, and of course, Lion's Justice, which will happen on the same day as we're about to shoot. But for right now, Exaltation brings so much commerce, so many people. The city doubles in size. Treats, parades, flags, you name it. It is a huge citywide celebration, and it has been in full swing for a full week. The lady, Martella Lothide, has discreetly contacted each one of our cavaliers. Someone that's knighted by the princess that draws so much attention to one side of the vote isn't necessarily her first choice. But for now, in and out of the city, in and out of each other's company, in and out of the Nameless Lord's parlor that you guys have been visiting, you have all accepted a certain degree of notoriety, popularity, success, scorn, all because of religion, race, new titles, you name it. You guys have been exposed to it. And I don't know if this has brought you together or possibly pushed you guys apart. Have you guys dwindled away into each little thing? You guys suddenly have very busy lives and possibly little time for each other. So I'd like to go around the room and reintroduce the cast and talk about what you guys have been doing. And now at this influx of a party where you guys have partied yourselves out for this week, where you finally come together in that parlor once again with notes, funny enough, from nobility. I mean, you guys have been down this road. From Romero Casti, brought you together, handwritten notes, asked you to do a bunch of stuff. Here we are again. Lady Lothide has given you guys notes and asking you to meet her somewhere. But before you do, one by one, you walk in this room. But I'd like to know, starting with Frank Hamilton, Lord Gildervarth, Lord Samish Gildervarth. Can I call you Samish?
You may. We're equals.
Thank you. I am rocking a bit of a beard. Well, it's stubble, but the bearded gentry that cut-off episode that we did. What's your life been like?
Yeah, so over the intervening couple of days, weeks, if they drag on that long, Samish would have been, kind of grooming himself to look more the noble part. He had let things kind of slide a wee bit as he was trying to maybe deny his heritage, as the Lord of Blackwater and distant relative to the Stethians. He would have grown that out a bit more, done some acts of charity, just to kind of help, not really proselytize on the street corner, because that's still kind of frowned upon, but just note that, random acts of charity and kindness to promote Sarenrae.
Are you still rocking that shield? Pretty much proclaiming the faith.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't shy away from any hardships.
I'm not saying they're throwing tomatoes at you, but you can bet that noble carriage that stops and, they just fill the elevator and the nobles are like, we have no room for you, and that kind of, there's been some shunnery, particularly with some of the older. Now, the priests and clerics, not just Kadirans, but those who have embraced the faith or have traveled back, have heard that it's legal again. There's pilgrimages. There are people coming from afar in the Intersea region to Taldor to help reignite this. They love you.
Yeah, I mean,
noble, your poster choice, a nobleman, like a lord.
If his opinion is if that the carriage turns him away, then he shall walk. I am not too proud to walk the streets with the common man, with the plebe.
Okay, well, we don't want your horse to fall into atrophy. I mean, you are a cavalier, and taking Vicky the oddly intelligent, or does she just like your what do you call it, campaign manager? She's doing phone calls, she's putting posters. Is she very busy campaigning for you in the faith, or you still ride her around a bit?
No, he's still got Vicky the oddly intelligent horse. So he's got the beast rider archetype, where the starting animal is a little bit smarter, a little bit better, stronger, faster, that kind of thing. So I decided to put the extra point in intelligence. So it's kind of like a Mr. Ed playoff from the 50s, 60s TV show. The horse can kind of understand some rudimentary languages and things, so...
But you've actually invested in making a commonplace mount, or... Now, do you have a light war horse, a heavy war horse, a riding horse? What is she? I know you guys get combat trained mounts for free as part of the class, so it kind of bumps you into at least the light, if not heavy class.
Yeah, let's see what she is. I think it's just a light warhorse.
Okay. And I'd like to talk about your age. How old are you? Or at least how old do you appear? Do you have an age range? You haven't really decided for the character? How old is this guy?
He's in his mid-20s, maybe 30 at the most.
Okay.
He's about 6 feet tall, a little on the heavy side. The cushions of noble life have kind of taken their toll on him. He's not what you would call, ridiculously strong, fast, hale of constitution, but he is very charming and very articulate and well-spoken.
Okay.
But in most of the other, kind of physical attributes, he's just slightly above normal.
That's great. That's a nice way of without calling the numbers, showing us your character sheet in roleplay. That's great. And the horse. Now, we talked about a scene where you were a young boy and the horse was being birthed, but race horses, they have like a 2 to 5 year thing, or they have like a 10-year thing. Like this might be like the ancestor. We might have to go a couple horses down the line before we get to Vicky.
Horses live for
forever,
30, 40 years.
They do.
Yes, actually they do.
Okay,
yeah.
and but I need a horse in its prime. Just be mean to have like an old, Vicky old.
At some point in time, if the campaign drags on and Victor pulls into mid 30s, early 40s, you will.
Victor, are we?
I'm sorry, excuse me.
No,
Vicky.
Vicky's intelligent enough; she can be anything she wants. If she has he, him, she, they, I want to be a red fire engine, then that's fine.
She identifies as a hot rod.
That's right.
As a toaster.
Give her antlers. She got like strap on antlers. She identifies as something from the wild. I mean, that's fine. That's fine.
Reindeer. But yeah, I mean, if the campaign runs real long, he will definitely have to retire her.
Okay.
Kind of put her out to pasture so she can live the rest of her days in comfort.
I would like to see that. I would like to see an animal companion mount that usually get killed in these games.
A 20-year-old horse is still a healthy horse. It's not a horse. It's not a horse in its prime, but it's a healthy horse. Like Lori's best friend's got a 28-year-old Arabian, and she still rides it. She was just doing jumping competitions down in the States. Funny you should say that, because Katapesh is sort of this world's Arab culture, and they have their horses they're very proud of, and they have all this slang that they say, as fast as a Tladian horse or as smart as a Tladian horse, and it's an insult. It's an actual. So the Arabian horses of Earth that are legendary, got to go to Katapesh for those. Taldor has their own sort of, I guess, as we were saying, Roman turned into a decadent Britain or France now, that style, Scottish horse, that kind of thing. Which brings us to Matt Witt, who helped us with our horse lore. So let's talk about wolves and heavy halflings and wolves and heavy. Well, all the adventuring actually has made Winston lose a little bit of his bulkiness. So
was that with me talking about the trail rations, where like he was the wolf was slowing the pace, so you'd eat rations and less meals? Remember that joke? Couple episodes?
Yeah. No, the adventuring did cause him, because I mean he didn't get to live the exhibition arena life where he just went out and chased his pig around a barrel and and got to eat.
Yep.
So he's not quite as portly. He's still quite a rotund halfling.
Yes.
But his immensity has decreased.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll hope to have you ripped by like 17th level or 20th before this ends. But that's awesome.
Yeah.
Barclay's thrilled.
Absolutely ecstatic.
Absolutely thrilled.
And because of that, and noticing that, his chance encounter with the halfling in the at the party, he's maybe a little more concerned about getting a little gussied up, and maybe like nobody's going to want a halfling that's wider than he is tall.
That's right. Maybe you coming around that I believe she had a little nickname for you or compared you to plum pudding, and that just made you hungry. Now you're thinking of this whole encounter in another light, possibly. So that's interesting. Have you been seeking out said servant girl? Have you been trying to get back to court where she was working in the courtly kitchen? I mean, that's a important gig for a regular halfling that's in the servant class, as she appeared to be.
No. Winston's way too shy for that.
Okay.
He's building confidence actually in the downtime, because he was aware of it. He did some traveling out along the edges of the Verdun forest, protecting halfling settlements and living off the land, and doing his job as one of the order of the paw.
Now this isn't such a stretch. Some people they take something out of a book going, oh, this is Pathfinder's Order of the Paw, and we're just sticking it in Taldor. The books on Taldor and Echoes of Glory talk about halfling settlements and farms dotting the land. And because the land, those canalways that used to bring water, agriculture, and irrigation, and even commerce, like little roadways, and roads themselves that just stop, disrepair, and then pick up again. Your job now, while the country is those rural areas are falling apart, is more important than ever. You're not just doing like a little casual road trip with a couple of beers on the back of this thing. You've been out there. You've been, in danger. You've been,
Yeah, and Winston's taking it very seriously.
Okay.
Awesome. He did the tour, made sure he was back well in time for the festival.
In time for the festival. Which brings us back. I'm just going to bring the map back here. Brings us back to Opera, because we're partying in Opera, the exaltation week of exaltation. So how's Barclay doing?
Barkley's doing great.
Are you talking about horse years and how long a horse lives? What about a wolf? Is it comparable to a dog?
Wolves don't have the same kind of a lifespan, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, probably very soon, he's going to need to be.
Is there a Mrs. Wolf? Like, you stud him out, or like try and make huskies out of the dogs in the dog circuit where you've been competing them? They're made for wolf. I don't think he'd really like you just whoring him out and being his daddy.
He's not a slut.
Okay. Well, you've had offers to breed. You have had offers with some of the nobles that want an exotic dog, like a husky or something, that kind of thing. It has come around, but taking Barkley's feelings into account, that's very kind of you. Okay. Next, we have Mr. Ryan Messina is returning for season 1, playing the military family bred and born half-orc Sir Bartholomew. Now, sir, legitimately. Now, the funny thing about being a knight or sirred up here in Taldor is there are inner sea cavaliers and paladins stuff that roam around that sort of transcend borders. Taldor is known for having a lot of families, like wealthy families, that sort of build a small community within the family and have servants and have castles and walls and all this stuff, and they sort of knight their own men, and it's considered legit as far as the country goes. You're a knight of this family. Sir Bartholomew, being the half-bred into owning the lineage to dad, not mum, was never sort of formally accepted in his own family to be elevated to that position. He had to go elsewhere. And he went, well, funny enough, ended up working for a princess, and possibly seeing political gain or just for funsies, decided for him to take a knee, much to his surprise, next to a very surprised and honored halfling, and knighted both of them. And now, befitting your character class, you may call yourself Sir. There are those in the community that refuse, despite their princess, that could basically insult you by saying, Grand Prince Stavian is our lord, and he would never knight you, and I refuse to call you sir. This could lead to bar fights. This could lead to you taking the higher road and just whatever. I don't think anyone's been so stupid as to throw a drink in your face or to slap down a gauntlet and demand satisfaction because you offend them. But there are whispers everywhere you go. There are glances, you more than any one of your friends. And there is an uproar and gatekeeping, as it were, in certain establishments where you should be able to go. So I'm curious, what's your life been like? You and Nagaroth. What have you guys been up to? Winston buggered off to the hills. Your lord is embossed in, getting into the faith kind of thing. What's it been like for a half-orc these days?
I would imagine with Bartholomew, with the new status that's been afforded to him, he would have probably gone back to his family home to tell the tales to his father and grandfather.
Now, you hold your father and grandfather in high regard. Now, I know we've only just barely touched on a backstory with you that involved your mother, hinting that she was military service and had something to do with your academy days. But shall we possibly... No, it's too early for a cutscene. What's your perspective? What's your take on dad and granddad? Why do they matter? Why go back?
Because father is God and grandfather is God of God.
Oh, okay. So you seriously respect. Now, have you taken any of those racial traits, like mostly human stuff? Do you think yourself as human? Do you try to be like one of them? Are you shaving the tusks, anything like that? Or, I know it's not easy being green, as it were, some poet said, but...
No, because a lot of the traits his father trained into him through his earlier days actually accentuated his natural orc ferocity that came from his half-breed status. It worked to his advantage for his family name. As much as it was a lot of conflict for him, it was also a source of strength for him.
Well, just to remind the audience, the Dunnel-Dagged name, if you were to say 3 things about it that, is widely known, what would they be?
Strong, armored, and steadfast.
Okay. And is this, you're referring to the fact that they are a militant family?
Very much so.
You talked about military service with this family?
Yeah.
Patriots of the world, or of the country, if not the crown itself?
Yeah. They've provided knights for the Taladenian army for decades, if not centuries. Okay.
Now, one of the changes that I'm about to get into is I offered these guys with new feats a chance to revoke a feat or change a couple things around. Do you want to train me out in combat? The character sheets have possibly changed, and we will repost them. Remind me to come back around. Well, actually, we'll probably do it right now. I was going to try and get to Leon before I hit this point. I know you for certain. We decided because two of you had taken the Child of Opera trait. Now, what's a good AP without digging into a cool campaign trait which directly links you that you can role play off of? And we'll quickly touch on them again, and anyone can pick up and download this from Paizo if you'd like to know more about the bonuses. We're going to prefer to talk about them in role playing terms. We had two that had Child of Opera, Frank, Lord Gillivarsh, and you. And we talked about your military background, and we found something interesting in the new one that you've picked up and swapped out so that we can try and cover more ground and cover more story. We've turned your family into the disgraced noble, which means, and I quote, your noble family used to matter in military circles until your father took a stand against Maxillar Pytharius, the current commander of Taldor's military itself. And that has sort of made you a disgraced noble. Now, you're still an honorable man. You still cling to Dad's ways. Like you said, they are everything. Granddad is everything. I'm curious, if it's your dad that went up against Maxillar Pytharius, how did Granddad take it? Because we're going to get into your relationship with both men. Who trained you to do what?
Fight. And lead men.
Yep. So, how did Granddad take Dad standing up against the current military commander? Did he back him? Is this become a falling out between the two men that you idolize?
No. I imagine the Dunaldagan family stayed strong together.
Okay.
The in-house squabbling was probably more over Bartholomew and his parentage than as opposed to political standpoints.
Okay, so
where
Dad decides to stand up against something that's going on with Maxillar, and because of Maxillar's prestige in the military, something happened where you guys get more than a slap on the wrist. You guys become this disgraced noble family, and they would look to you, the rising star, to rebuild it. But there's already a scandal there. There's always that Dad, not with Mom. Dad was with your mom, that kind of thing. So, is your dad with a human woman? Is he married?
Yeah. No, he lost his first wife to plague.
Oh, okay. So going it alone and still not having an heir, and then instead of taking a noble wife where they would line up, there's that noble disgrace. Did this happen before he got himself a green companion, shall we say?
Well, Bartholomew's unclear on this information.
Okay.
But
so you're not sure if this happened, this confrontation happened pre-birth. What I'm getting at is, if you're disgraced nobility, the noble women may not line up so quickly to, marry into this family if you guys are already disgraced. Your dad might have had little options, or maybe they were lining up and clamoring at his door, and he just found, your love child of what's going on there, and the disgrace bit comes later.
Bartholomew's a child of the battlefield.
Okay. You're saying your dad really put it to an enemy soldier? Are you like Tannis from Dragonlance?
No. She was a sub-commander, a lieutenant.
Okay.
And she was a very skilled individual, very talented in her own right.
Okay. And is she a orc or half-orc herself?
She's half-orc, but she actually doesn't appear to be half-orc due to...
those racial traits.
Yes.
The mostly human bit. And that flared up in you, and you've gone green, brown, and tusky. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, well, we'll delve a little bit more into that in cutscenes and that type of thing. But you see the relationship here. There's Granddad, there's Dad, there's you, there's the disgrace bit against another military leader. You guys are a military family. And then there's your birth.
Yes.
So all these mixed around, make an interesting story. And we just kind of wanted to go to A, B, C, D here. Okay. So it does give you cool stuff. All of these things do. Which brings us, last but not least, our Fly Samurai, Jay Tamlin, rejoining the cast with Akihiko, known as Leon. How did you get the nickname Leon? Thank you.
Leon is a name as a result of many people having trouble pronouncing Akihiko.
DM included. Go on.
In the
Did the Vinmarks give you this name, like the Elfin guys?
Yes, this was the Vinmarks. Up in the north, they don't have as intricate mouth movements. They cannot form the words.
The Elfin language is abrasive?
Yes.
Not as
yes,
elegant
abrasive.
as your Taishan language? Is this where we're going with this?
Not elegant. Delicate.
Okay. Now, we've linked you to a former character that was cameoed by Aidan Willems, who sits in and is here tonight. Ruse Lawyer, as usual. Say hello, Aidan.
Hello.
You mad I killed your character, Sigurd, the bard?
I actually really like the character.
Did you like the fact that I tried to pull my character from Clint's Core Classics, the half-elven cleric of Sarenrae, who was mixed up with a woman, cleric Sarenrae? She died, and he kind of went a little crazy, saying he still heard her spirit, and then it's implied that he hears yours, sees yours, on the steps of Eridan Temple, no less, confusing your spirit with the body of a fallen comrade that was brought there for burial by these guys. You're still around in spirit, as one might say. We haven't written you off totally yet. But we did attach Leon to you with some cutscenes crossing over the frozen north of Ulfinland. Is it a possibility that you gave him this name? Jay? Is he just another Leon? No. Okay. Just want to explore that possibility. Because you were talking about the Ulfin people, and if you talk to anyone, it'd be the kid.
I was given this name as a way for my lord to more easily refer to me.
Okay, so this isn't like the Ulfins talking about Taladians saying they're a bunch of Leons, or this isn't some kind of slang thing for Taizan where the Taladians are slanging the Taizan and calling them, you know what I mean? This isn't a derogatory term. It's just a name. I think I should call you Tim, that kind of thing. You're Leon, I can't pronounce your name, that kind of thing. Okay, it was given to you by your lord, Grand Prince Davian. Or was it given to you by the Vinmark head?
It was given to me by the head of Vinmarks.
Okay, and do you have his name?
I have Vinmark as the name, yes.
No, I mean, what is the man's name? Who leads the Vinmark family? Who's Alpha in said family? That's the guy.
He is the...
Do they call him Jarl? Is it Jarl?
Opara at the moment.
No. Sorry. Go ahead.
He is currently the mayor of Opara.
Really?
Indeed.
That is awesome. Imagine that. I want to see the mayor. And you walk in, and there's like big ivory tusks on either side of the desk because the guy's all ulfined up, you know, like he's guy's like a Viking. You know, get the Flintstone drapes with the holes in them made of skins of something. Is that what the mayor's office now?
Baron Oltar Vinmark.
Baron Oltar Vinmark. I know this name. I am the GM, but I did want to hear it from you. And sorry for poking fun at your new adapted dad, but that Flintstone office stays. So he gave you the name Leon. Your companions call you Leon for ease. No one's really delved into your past. Maybe it's a sore subject. There's always those campfire player thing. Oh, we've gotten to know each other. Oh, we spent days on the road, that kind of thing. We didn't get too much into that. For as much episodes and much time that we burned in just a prologue series, there were a lot of interesting role-playing between you guys. I remember you and Sir Gildevar, or Lord Gardevarth, not really getting along so well. I remember Bartholomew bonding with you, saving your life, ketchup botting a potion, bleeding your horse, that type of thing. You know, we got to stick together kind of thing. I remember the halfling just happy to be here, loves everybody, except anybody he decides to charge at. And it doesn't like walls or climbing them. Wolf's got no problem with stairs. I've said that up front, but Matt's got this thing for walls. I mean, even in Attack of Opportunity, he had I digress. Leon. Vinmark family, adopted, here to stay. More interesting political turning of the wheel with Pathfinder Society adventures that parallel and link and build up to Crownfall, which we are going to play, and Echoes of Honor. We'll explain also a bit of your backstory and your family. But for right now...
It's certainly been an interesting week.
It's been an interesting week. What have you been up to? And what is your PC trait? Does that lean on anything?
Oh, well, I am, as far as the trait for the campaign is concerned, I'm a young reformer. So basically, I have been traveling the local circuit of the taverns and various places where further lesser nobles may visit in order to gain a sense of the general atmosphere of the political landscape. Basically, I noticed oddly, though it was foggy that day in the palace, certainly didn't seem to hinder me as much as apparently Bartholomew and my fellow companions.
Yeah, they all have accounts of that you were there and what you said and did, and you personally, Leon, don't remember much about that.
There's a very foggy memory.
Yeah, it's funny. We'll have to explain that in either cutscene or other. But don't worry, we'll get to that. But you're here now. You're feeling okay. You ran into a very interesting young man from your homeland, claiming to be an oracle, advising you on a bunch of things, and disappearing recently as quickly as he came and helped you. But he did help sort of clear up some of that fog, put some interesting new ideas in your name. But if you want to know more about those interesting characters, like I said, that's past, back on your feet, on your own, enjoying some fame, if not notoriety, as the person that turned down the princess. Some say that you turned down a marriage proposal. Now they're saying, oh, no, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. Maxilar Pytharis is in town. He's come back, and they're hooking up. That's a rumor that's circling around that you've heard. There are a lot of, for as much as you go for the young reformer, for the young nobles, there are a couple of old guys that come over and buy you a drink and give you a nod and look past your heritage and, or just, the silent applause going, you know your place. And we appreciate that. We've got a lot of that coming up to this week. Now it's party time. It's like occultation. The young man's going to become a noble. Who can it be? Who can it be? That kind of thing. You have lost some time, as it were, that fog, but we'll get back to that. How's the horse doing?
Mukage is great.
Light, heavy, warhorse?
I like to believe Mukage is a Taldan charger.
Okay, so light?
Fast on the lighter side, but she is...
There's only 2 horses. Which one is it?
Mukage is she's a young, heavy warhorse. So she is not quite at full strength yet.
Okay. No, I got you now. Maybe looking to Vicky for mentoring. So you have the light warhorse that's a little bit, inner prime. The younger, heavy warhorse.
She is also a young Taldan charger, a horse that is very proudly brought and raised from Taldor.
Oh, okay. So you being seen on this horse is really prestigious for you, isn't it?
Indeed. One of the few gifts I was given by Vinmark that I truly appreciate.
Now, we talk about how Taijan you are and all this stuff, and you're foreign, right? How do you dress? There's your armor, which is parade armor. Do you wear... Do you wear the kilt that goes with... You wearing the kilt that goes with the armor that, is this...
I wear the Vinmark kilt, yes.
Okay.
I tend to...
It's an armored kilt, though. It's not a downside.
It is.
Okay.
I have taken to leaning more towards my foreign nature as a way of getting people to let their guard down, I suppose.
So do you have the money to carry the actual bow in the style that's halfway down?
I carry the Yumi, I carry my Wakizashi.
Okay.
And I tend to address people in a way that I would not normally.
Now, isn't a samurai all about having the set, the katana, and the Wakizashi? Is there a place in this adjusted fantasy lore where the bow takes the place for you of the katana? Or is only a true Taijan lord give you said katana and you're like as samurai as you can be accepting a foreign lord? If you follow where I'm going with this. Because you talked about the Wakizashi, I haven't talked about the katana. And I know you're a bow guy, so you have the Asian bow.
Yes, my family is a family of Yabusame.
Okay.
They are samurai that focus mainly on using the bow. They do, however, nevertheless take great pride in their samurai, in their armor and their set, the Wakizashi, the shoto, and the katana. I have not seen my father's katana and shoto in a very long time.
So very, very proud of the bow. You're not walking around with it and you see a pretty girl at a bar and say, "Hey, buddy, hold my bow." Then you make
no, it would never leave my person.
Okay. Funny enough, didn't have it on you when you approached the princess. It was just you, the Wakizashi, and formal, the pajamas, as it were, the robes. At least that's what the guys tell you. Now, you haven't seen much of them. Like I said, one went abroad, one's been running around rallying a faith, one went home. But now you guys have gotten back together, gotten back in touch. But before we play out the inevitable parlor scene, and everyone tells everybody how great Frank looks and how much weight, the half-orc lost, and no one notices the halfling. He's just in that purple outfit. Let's touch back on Gildervarth. You took the Child of Opara, which sets you up for nobility, yes?
I did, yeah.
And that trait goes hand in hand, and you even upped it one by burning your first level feat. Yes, humans get 2, so it's not too much sacrifice. Taking the Noble Scion, which they've altered in this game. There's the traditional Noble Scion, which does a bunch of stuff, but they've tailored that feat in this game to set you up to pick one of several families. Jay's Leon has done this as well. He went with Vinmark. And you went with Stavian.
With the Stavian family, yeah.
Yes, so, and being affiliated with the family like a cousin, this is why the princess allowed you to approach. You had to wait and get the nod and you know, for her to express her favor. But in those last scenes in the court, when she, you know, waved you up and had you stand next to her, that's huge. The entire court's talking about that. They know you're related distantly. They're, you know, that's a pure sign of favor. And then of course you trounce that moron, you know, Romeo. And someone missed the half-baked miracle that we stuck in there, but that's for another time. And even Fafal, and a trade halfling bouncing light, and a yelling, intimidating half-orc. You know, the guys were all there trying to get in on your XP, but I digress.
Yeah, I mean, Samish likes to say that only the most ruinous of events would put him in line for the throne. So while he's close enough to kind of see it, he would never really inherit any power from noble blood. Yeah, in relation to ruling the country.
Are you saying that you're kind of like Maid Marian? Oh yeah, I'm the cousin to the king. All they remember her being is like Robin Hood's girl. It's like, no, she was the king's cousin. She's a very relevant and powerful person. You know, she's not just the maiden in distress in the forest or whatever. So they gloss over that. So, Lord Samish, have you been in contact with the princess since then, or has she been too busy for you?
He has made himself available, but I don't think that he is really a go-to as far as tasks or conversations, and mostly because, you know, he adheres to the Saren Ray tenets, which kind of puts him at odds with the family.
Yeah, not to mention, like, you know, the cousin doesn't return your calls. You know, I got all this controversy at the Senate. I don't need to like take on religion as another standing point. The funny thing is, she has been asked. You know, it's been whispered at court that you favor your cousin and you're, you know, blah, 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 blah. Does that mean automatically you favor his views for religion and everything? And of course, she'll probably do the political. No comment. I have no comment at this time. Maybe her horse is her press, you know, handle. No comments, no pictures. Coming back around, Matt, now you stated openly that you had the athletic champion. You took the campaign treat that's like athletic champion, but you did twist. It's not you. It's right. It's Barkley.
It's Barkley. Well, it's both of us, but Barkley's the athlete. I just sit on his back, give him some extra weight so he gets better traction in the barrel race.
Yeah, but you're the handler, so hence, you know, but you didn't get into breeding. So, have you got him back in the circuit, or is he just like the reigning champion? And then when the next world champion dog war or robot wars, or whatever it is that he was in, comes around, you'll be called upon to be the defending champion?
He still takes part in the occasional exhibition game. But he's not a regular mainstay in the circuit. No, most of my time's dedicated to patrolling the halfling settlements and making sure everything's okay there.
Now, funny enough, it's to take 2 physical skills like climb, diplomacy, perception, swim. Okay, not all of them are physical. Just curious, what did you take them for yourself because you trained him, or did you actually get him into this trait where you actually made sure that he had one of these? I mean, obviously you can't have diplomacy for the wolf, but perception, swim, or climb, going back to that wall incident. I'm just curious if people want to know.
For Winston, I did actually focus on diplomacy, but the wolf actually has a good skill set because I'm a beast rider and your mount's a little bit enhanced.
Okay.
So I bumped up his strength a bit, which in turn bumped his skills. He does have much better bonuses to anything to do with mobility than Winston, especially considering Winston's in armor.
Yeah. Okay. So going down the list here, just make sure I've got everybody covered. We're talking about Frank being a child of Aparo. We're talking about Ryan's Sir Bartholomew switching out for the disgraced noble, which actually helps us in our story. We have Jay, the young reformer, running around, but funny enough, getting at least a silent applause from the old guys going, well, at least you know your place, that kind of thing. And Matt, the athletic champion. There are several of campaign traits that you can take that deal with the Senate, that deal with other things. And we have a rare chance. Remember how I said you guys have stunt doubles? Remember how we say, well, just because you lose a cavalier doesn't mean the show loses cavaliers. So I would quickly like to do a little role play and introduce or have you meet not first the players, but the actual characters who, well, you know what I mean? When you get famous in Taldor, there's always conniving, there's always nobles and senators always trying to climb the ladder. There are cavaliers who have taken note of your, we partied up, we did something not military campaign, because there hasn't been a huge expeditionary force in years. There hasn't been, a war with Kadir or anything. There's cavaliers that usually go it alone, trying to get self-glory, trying to go, I represent this family. My castle's over there, and I shall save this one person. And they're always on this personal thing. You guys partied up, ran around the countryside, and gained the favor of the princess. This has not gone unnoticed to your orders and other cavaliers. So starting with your own order, we talked about how Matt went, oh, right, I'm Order of the Paw. I need to patrol. And off he went. Sir Bartholomew, what order does your cavalier belong to? And what does that mean for service in Taldor?
Bartholomew's an Order of the Dragon.
And what does that mean?
Which means his compatriots are the best weapon he wields.
So you're the tactician, the field commander.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm the one who yells at them to run faster.
So it's pretty much, we're talking about your military training is really like officer training.
Yes.
Or sergeant at least. Petty
yes,
officer.
He's still coming to terms with that, because before it was just yelling, but now it's yelling with a purpose.
Okay. So if we expect anyone to like telling a player telling another player what to do, or at least in character, that would be you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether or not they listen is a completely different story. But if you fold back to the Scorpion fight, that was the first example of it.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay. So we have Order of the Paw, we have Order of the Dragon. Lord Varth, what cavalier order do you belong to?
He's the Order of the Sword.
Okay. And what are they all about?
They're all about, kind of if you think of your Arthenian knight, so chivalry, code of honor. That's about what they represent, fairness in dealings.
So you don't, you have to acknowledge the common man, the knight, and the lord, but you're not, you're there to protect everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically everything has its place, and in its place, everything belongs.
Yeah, but I was saying it's you're not going to let commoners get slaughtered. It is your job, well, there's no one else here. It's my job, Knight of Sword, and I go.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, his tenants to Serenray and, as well as his Cavalier Order, demand that he protect those that cannot protect themselves.
Yeah, there are a lot of knights and cavaliers, especially self-serving ones that are all about their family, that would just ride by people in distress going, well, it's not worth my time, or it's not worth my station, or I don't have to, I don't have to acknowledge you on the street. But the cavaliers of the sword do. And the fact that you're a lord doing that is pretty big deal, on top of you embracing, a faith that's been, not popular to say the least, and coming back. Now, why did we allow a samurai in a cavalier party? It is mechanically extremely similar. And I was dying to find out if we could put... I mean, there is the paladin, and there is the shining knight archetype that you could give to a paladin. But a lot of parties have a paladin. It is a staple D&D, a Pathfinder thing. Going with the samurai, the horse, the lord, the type of thing, the alternate culture was a nice contrast that we were looking to set up between Frank, obviously being the the head of the pack, not necessarily the party leader, but being the ideal and yet not, and the samurai. They have challenged that ability. Or you can archetype them out. So getting back to Leon, they have family honor. They have an order they belong to as cavaliers. They need that. You need one thing, a lord to follow, whose word is law, and who you are ready to give your life for without hesitation.
I serve my lord and my land to the end of my days.
Exactly. And what about the common people? What about, or do you just kind of take the Lord's example? If the Lord's feeling generous, his samurai are generous? Or does he give you a bit of rope there and do as you want, as long as you're called upon to jump back into character, befitting of a samurai? How much leeway do you have? What is, compared to a cavalier, one's patrolling and looking after the little guy, quite literally in size. One has to be open to all things in the country and into the people, despite his status. One is very military-minded, like a tactician, a sergeant, an officer, and will shine in those situations, but, is left to his own views. What about a samurai?
That's an interesting question. The biggest thing for a samurai is loyalty and honor to themselves and first, their lord as first and second. They're basically the same thing. So for me, I must also then obtain my own dignity and honor. And personally, I would see that protecting the lands of my lord includes protecting the people therein. So yes, if I see something, I will immediately step in as best I can. However, should my lord give me commands otherwise, as long as it doesn't immediately challenge my own honor, I will defer to my lord's commands first.
And this gets us into a very interesting concept of what is known in film as the Ronin, a samurai with no lord. But of course, they always start those stories like he's wandering alone, and they do this Wild West flip on that kind of thing. It's a big deal for a samurai to decide that his personal honor, or he's had enough, or he's fed up with his lord, to say no, to walk away. It strips him of a bunch of abilities. It flips him to a Ronin on the spot. Sure, it's very cool and romantic, but it can handicap the character seriously. And if that point comes up where Grand Prince Davian III does something that isn't cool, you're supposed to think it over. You're supposed to confront him. You're supposed it can't be like the first thing. Obviously, there has to be leading up events or whatever. You know what I mean?
From family stories of what I've heard, my grandfather had disagreed with I believe they called him the Jade Emperor, and at that point in time, he ended up committing seppuku as a way of displaying his loyalty, but his also being loyal to himself in that he could not follow through with the commands. My father apparently became a Ronin instead, though he had other obligations, so it's a very difficult concept.
Those obligations being possibly you and your mother. The cutscene.
Indeed, or the rest of my family. I don't know that much about him.
Well, that's why we have another series coming up, and we have cutscenes for those little things, so you can remember. It's all fog of war to you right now. You belong to the Vinmark family. Why isn't the mayor your lord? Why is it Stavian?
The mayor is my lord, but my lord answers to Grand Prince Stavian.
So would this be the difference between like the shogun and the emperor?
Indeed.
So
I answer to a shogun directly, but my shogun answers to the emperor.
So
thus I would defer to the emperor.
Going back to that sort of cultural bit, it is a fantasy game, and it's sort of a take on classic Earth, and you have some leeway, some fantasy rope to, let out so people don't go, samurai would never do that. So, you guys remember, just like the knights of old, and no one expects these guys to act like Lancelot. You can't expect our samurai to be dead on the nose to like the latest samurai movie that you saw. It's a fantasy. It's their characters. Live a little, play along with them, listen to the podcast, and find out where we go with this. But I do have to ask, in that classic comparison, Grand Prince Davian III is the classic emperor, and our mayor, Vinmark, your direct family adoptee dad, is the shogun. Or,
yes, he is my shogun.
Is it Maxilar Pytharis who runs the military? Because the shogun ran the military. You see where I'm going with this?
Unfortunately, despite my best efforts, I have yet to be introduced to the Taldan phalanx. So as yet, my shogun is the Baron.
Okay, fair enough. So you serve the Baron. His word is law. And if the Emperor were to walk up to you, he really shouldn't. He should just say, Shogun, have your guys do this, and then they talk to you. You know what I mean? But obviously, if the Emperor himself, if the Grand Prince bothered to look your way and tell you to do something, you'd have to do it.
It would be it would be a huge dishonor.
Okay.
To not do so.
And what if we get to a point where Dad's not around, and the Vinmark family is doing something for the Emperor? Because remember, the Vinmark family is his personal guard. So if the Vinmark family does something, are they your fellow samurai? Is that who you see as your fellow samurai? Going, oh, well, they're all doing this. I need to fall in line here.
It depends on what they were doing. At that point, it would be a personal decision. I would need either a direct order from my lord or to follow my own personal sentiment.
Okay. Let me give you a scenario. There's a parade. Stavian's on a float. He's surrounded by his personal guard. They start throwing tomatoes instead of kisses. And they're all holding up little princess, whatever flag or whatever. Maybe this parade was a bad idea. You weren't asked to guard him that day. You're your own kind of free guy. You're almost like their little pet or a little experiment or whatever. The Vinmark family decide to take an action. Riot shields, gas masks, push back those fans, arrest those fans, or they just jump up on the float and surround their lord so that they get hit by tomatoes instead of your lord. What would you do? What is protocol for samurai in this situation when your fellow Vinmark/samurai are doing something? You just get to decide willy-nilly?
Oh, no. In that situation, without receiving orders, I would then refer to my own personal code. And that code would say to then join my companions in protecting my lord, whether that be by including myself as a body shield or going to the civilians and asking that they calm themselves or remove themselves from the situation.
Doing something to diffuse the situation is still as honorable as just falling in line with your fellow samurai and doing what they decide to do. The only dishonorable act would be to do nothing or walk away, yes?
Indeed.
Okay. Something to remember for our future. Because obviously, Prince Stavian isn't painted as someone we're going to end up being with. It's more like Eutropia, and you're leaning on the other side of the fence here. So your character might be put in situations like Frank with the religion thing, difficult situations. We'll see how this plays out. So Exaltation Week is here. It's party time. Gentlemen, the Lord has no problem with you using his apartment flat that's decked out, that he can boast that you guys come over on weekends, even though he is abroad and busy, does well enough for his prestige. You guys have access. You do not have keys. There are servants that maintain and serve a wee butler and, a little bit of food going on. And he pays to uphold, the bar, that kind of thing, in exchange for having the princess's named knights hang at his place. You being seen coming and going was a gamble, with the Romeo thing. He was in with him, distancing himself from Romeo Casti, but hanging on to you guys going, hey, use my place anytime you want as a home base. And there's booze and treats, lovely sandwiches, is enough to possibly have you guys hook up here, check it on the weekends, as it were, when we get to the Sunday, Monday, which is the proverbial weekend in Taldorian calendar. So it is here, 1, 2, 3, back and forth, staying in touch, coming and going. But finally, the missing puzzle piece, a random day amidst all the hubbub, parades in the streets, all that flag waving, in taverns, discussions. They even have themed food in the taverns of Opara for this week. It is a huge, huge deal. Winston, buddy, so hard, so many days working out. You know what I mean? You come back and it's food fest. Do you follow? It's cheat week. It's like the holidays, like Christmas, right? You worked out all year, but you know what? Thanksgiving leads into Christmas, and you quote unquote treat your body like garbage. Okay. So the scene falls from the skies of Golarion. I just love that little blue marble in space. I'm sure that blue marble will sit there in space for eternity. Nothing's gonna. It's not like Alderaan, where we make jokes about it getting blown up and the security and the pension. No. I'm sure Golarion, through the Pathfinder, there will be no auxiliary. I'm sure it'll be there forever and ever and ever and ever. I'm sure. Zoom through the clouds down to the Inner Sea region, falling upon the northeastern hub, past the Isle of Kortos, onto Taldor lands. The mighty river Porthmos, sweeping past Opara, still a hub of trade, still a lifeblood port of the Inner Sea region, and now swelled to double its size in people and merchants and nobility, and everyone's partying and everyone's talking about two things: the Senate vote that's coming to put this Primogemer nonsense to rest. The old fuddy-duddies are sure it'll be no. And all the people that are jumping on there to get her into office, as it were, or give her that shot, going to vote yes. But you know what? There's a lot of senators that are still on the fence. There's still some uncertainty. And all that's been put on pause for number 2. It's the grand day of exaltation approaches like mad, and everyone's just having a good time to have a good time. Taking a break from it. And so happy to see some old friends that you campfired with, drew blood with, failed to rescue young Arabian Kelishate boys with, went into tombs with, break and enter, got gold, talking swords, all that bit. Looking around the room, when Leon, the last guy to enter, breaks that threshold and sees Cheat Week going on with the halfling, and he's double fisting beer and all these sausage rolls and things going on, to see a distracted half-orc wistfully looking at a window, 2 fingers on a curtain, just wondering about the shabby security of the military that's escorting people safe during these parades, and Lord Samish, who is so kind to the servants and insisting that he gets his own drink when they like fall over him to, serve him first over everybody else. All eyes turn to Leon,